Okay, there it goes. All right. Hello, world. Tonight's featured reader is organized by Colette Tennant from her poetry class at Corban University. So we'll have Colette up, and you want to say a word or two before we get going? Okay, off the cuff. Here she comes.
I'm just so thrilled that this room is packed, and we had to add chairs for this wonderful lineup of an octave of poets that we have. Hopefully at your table you have a little program of coming events. They're all going to read 2 or 3 poems. So there are 8 of them, but it will go pretty fast. But they are just so talented and just have been a wonderful group to work with this semester, and I still get to work with them till December. And I'm just going to turn it over to them, and I think this will be some laughs and some thoughtful poetry, and just they're all big characters. You'll see what I mean. Okay.
Hello, my name is Desiree Flaming. I'm from Albany, Oregon, and I've been writing since 2020, and I'm here to share with some of my poems that I've written this semester. The first one is titled The Moral of the Story. I once read a book with wormholes in space, cabbages, and a cat called a dinger, after Schrodinger's cat. And I'm pretty sure there were angels in the sewer, sons of Eden. I once read a book about a tribe who studded their teeth with emeralds, and some of their children could walk the spirit world but couldn't find their way home. I once read a book about a ballerina on a car trip to find her addict older sister. I can't remember the title, but after reading it, I stunned my father by knowing Fleetwood Mac trivia. The moral of the story being we should be more careful with what ends up in children's books. Or should we? In our poetry class, we've seen a few themes that came up a lot, and one of the themes was laundry. I decided to write a poem about this, titled My Dreadful Fear of Laundry. My laundry spreads across my life like leftover marmalade. Sticky, not sweet, insufferably annoying. Clothes pile on the floor, the bed, the top of the dresser. When I was little, I feared the monster in the closet. Now I recognize it was my primal fear of laundry, which never stays in the closet like it's supposed to. My dresser drawers sit half open, half empty, waiting for me to fold the clean laundry I washed 3 days ago, while the dirty laundry makes a move to conquer my floor and declare independence. And the I wore those once, but it's still clean articles hang in frightful limbo anywhere I can hang them, like the poor ladies in Bluebeard's chamber. And speaking of limbo, my mending pile is sock purgatory, useless as an ER with a 4-month wait time. Gaping cloth wounds sit, ignored. My last poem is called Full Moon. I count 7 raccoons hit by cars on the way to school today, and I wonder if my coworker with the self-done tattoos was right about the effects of the full moon. My aunt told me that doesn't sound very Christian of you when I spoke of the universe. I sipped my prosciutto and said nothing. In less than a month she was dead, and my mouth flooded with regret. I hear sirens all day as I lie in bed, head pounding, body aching. I am roused 3 times by the cats fighting beneath my home. That night I wander the streets, muttering at the gaping death face above. As I count the mangled lumps of fur and the pills to make it through classes, I hear my aunt's voice, but think that I hate the moon and blame the universe, because then it's not God killing the raccoons.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Noah Platts. I'm from Union, Oregon. I'm from a small farm, and that has honestly helped inspire a lot of my poetry. Here's my first one. A farm boy's daydream. I dreamed of a dark-haired angel with steel wings. She soars low over the grassy fields so the blades touch her face, and then veers up to miss a barbed wire fence. At night, she flies by the light of the moon, spinning, twisting, blotting out a momentary star, scattering bats and sparrows to see satellites above. One October, she came down a mountain, riding the Chinook winds like a chariot between the timber. A deer leapt, spooked by her ghostly speed. She sent ripples over a crystal creek, past bushes of wild rose and scraggly old apple trees, over yellowed grass and flocks of sheep. She came to an apple town of hay and cider. Men hunted for game and wood with the coming of winter. She glimpsed me before heading south with the wild geese. My next one is called I Don't Like Doing This. Just to clarify, I still do eat hamburger. I don't like doing this, my dad says, as he sharpens his knife. Stone on steel, but we must. For where else would we get meat and iron for our oxygen-starved bodies? Spinach won't cut it. The lamb died instantly, painlessly, I hope. Quickly he bled and died on the snow. We skinned him and gutted him. There's always someone who wants the liver or the kidneys. For what purpose, I don't know. I just do my job. There he hangs, a silent testament to the curse that fell upon the world. Days later, we cut up the meat, ground hamburger into odd little shapes sanitized by a whining electric motor, wrapped them in plastic, and froze them. They look so good in a frying pan in the evening glow of summer, and I forget my bloody frozen hands, but my dad's voice will never leave my mind. I don't like doing this. And the third one, we have a wood stove in our house, so this is self-explanatory. Wood cutting. The tamaracks and the white firs are yellow and green, as if preparing for Christmas. The truck, a horse trailer in tow, kicks up dust, a prequel to the snow. We drive until we find a good spot, a few trees dead, not fallen. They are the skeletons of the dryads. Under their bark, like empty veins, runs the chewed tunnels by insects. My father stops and puts on his red hard hat, a premonition of the future of this harvest. The chainsaw is the color of tamarack needles, the shape of a motorized beaver. It gnaws through the wood until the tree falls, first slowly, then picking up speed like the foe in a fairy tale. It hits the ground like lightning that might have struck it once, sending a current of air translated as sound. Its bark is the same pink as a doll fairy, and as we get to work, liquid sugar comes out from the bones of a giant who has clapped his hands for the last time. Thank you.
My name is Allie, and I'm from Hobbs, New Mexico. My reputation in class this semester, I guess, is argumentative. Me and Dr. Tennant have gotten into a few scuffles. But my first poem is titled An Apology to My Parents for the Miracles of My Childhood, and my dad has affirmed that it's historically accurate. So, an animated miracle. The car keys grew legs and walked away. A miracle recurring. The living room was only cleaned 5 seconds before Mom got home. A predestined miracle. I sprained my ankle the exact moment the dog needed his walk. A miracle tuned. I had headphones in when Dad called for dinner. Several miracles all in one. Lynn, Joanne, and Ray will all get in trouble before I do. My second poem is because boys my age are stupid, and it's titled All It Is Words and Paper. Next time you decide to waste my day with a coffee-stained letter, please include the following words, precise and clear, that I can strip off the page and watch come to life like Sam Gould's Shakespeare. Paper, untainted by the taste of your bitter addiction that means more to you than I do. Honesty, that telltale commandment you love to ignore, that buzzes in your bad ear and somehow never stings you. Purpose, like the fortified Thanksgiving Day parade, failing to break tradition for the last 98 years. Hope, to prove this incline has a peak, and when the grave digger runs his hand across my tombstone, his thumb will get caught on beloved wife.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emma Roth. I've lived here I lived in Albany, then I lived in Salem, then I lived in Albany, and then I lived in Jefferson, which is between the two. So I've just been here for a long time. This is my first time I've ever really written poetry, but it's going great. So my first one I have for you is called Poems Have Apparently Had Enough. A loss of poet fishermen due to the open sea storms made worse by careless critiques of the poet supervisors. Lazy bread writers use cheap words to save a quick buck. Their poems lack nutrients, become brittle, break without warning. Sonnet roots now grow upward, their life source unearthed by poem hunters frantically scouring for more. That's it. I like short poems, so you guys are lucky today. Okay. My next one is called An Answer for an Elder. My grandfather once asked me why God would color the fall leaves. I answered, for what other purpose than enjoyment? Dark green forest pulled over earth's uneven canvas. How wonderful to see speckles of marigold, mahogany, marmalade, like paint flicked from an artist tuning his brush. And then this last one was based off of a Halloween prompt. So I just want to preface this. This is not necessarily my view of ghosts, but I went with it. It's called Ghostly Behavior. Ghosts almost never misplace their toothbrushes, but they certainly will yours. Unless they died last Tuesday, they almost never know the latest Bruno Mars song, or that Tweed has made a comeback. Ghosts will almost never enjoy the movies you watch, trying to revive your inner child. Ghosts almost never take walks with you and your dog on a bright Sunday afternoon. They can't pick the flowers, so what's the use? Ghosts almost never like the shades of lipstick I pick out or the pearls I leave on the kitchen windowsill. And ghosts almost never like being told they can't stand behind me when I'm looking in the bathroom mirror, or that I prefer gold jewelry to silver. But most importantly, ghosts almost never know the right way to ask for help getting home.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrew Lever, and I am from Lebanon, Oregon, so just a little bit away from here. It's not too far away from home. I was not really much into poetry when I was younger and didn't really think about a lot of it until I met Dr. Tennant, and she convinced me to go to poetry class. And now I'm writing poems. So the first one I have for you guys is called Beneath World. Sometimes I hear footsteps below me, a soft chatter of heel on stone. No limp or pause, just a steady beat that at times matches mine. Cobbled shadows lumber beneath my feet. I can fear their stony gaze through the red leaf-laden sidewalks and up my legs. I wonder if they notice my sprained ankle. Once, on some back road in southern Ohio, as the last inch of sun retreated under the horizon, they emerged, piloting a massive, Earth-like machine, an iron ore framed, tied together with uncut bedrock, oak bark wrapped stones for wheels, and colorful accents laced with green moss. Perhaps one day I will learn their language. The second one is called Let It Be Saturday. It's because our class is on Friday and I get really tired in the afternoons. Let it be the night. Let me start over. Let the night be over. Rise with the sun. Mark the weekend's call. Hear the gleeful cheers of children. Let those who find work find rest. Be glad, for the work is over. Let every young adult and old child bask in the sweet rays of the Sunday sun. Hear the sounds of familiar chimes as the ice cream truck treks his route. Let the mob arise, O revelry, and mark the bell. It shall not ring today. Hurrah, for we are liberated, brought forth from our beds to freedom and play. Let us be the call. Let our voices cry out. Wake the neighbors, light the streets. For today, recess is our anthem. And lastly, irony. Expect changes. Walk into a room with 100 people and tell me you don't lose your voice. Grandpa lost his dentures in a garbage disposal. He doesn't have to chew his words anymore. I lost my childhood bed, the morning smell of waffles, the free time to wander around a 1-acre plot. Perhaps there are things worth losing. I can only carry so many cups of tea. Watch the sunset on a city and tell me you don't feel alone.
Testing. Okay, thanks, Rix. Okay, hi, my name is Elizabeth Hosey. I'm from Canby, Oregon, and I'm going to be reading for you some poems I wrote today. So the first poem is called Poemy. Poems going extinct, a news headline cries, which I know is an exaggeration, since I just saw a poem forging across the street to pet a random goose, and another sipping too expensive lavender-flavored coffee from a cup that wasn't really there. Still, there was a run on all the avant-garde and unpronounceable stores, just for it to be revealed that all the prose everyone bought was factory-made artificial. Someone once tried to wring out poems, squeezing and pinching a prompt-soaked page, but they forgot to use a strainer, so the most potent words fell down the drain. I tried a different approach with only free-range, non-GMO ideas. The trouble is, to get something so pure, you have to catch them yourself. I waited, lying on my stomach in a field full of weeds, sending out offerings of rye bread and perfectly steeped cinnamon tea. But I only found a halfway decent synonym for orange. The next poem is called Ode to... Sorry! Okay. The next poem is called Ode to a Poet. In your eyes is class a poem. A mountain, a literary reference, a wave, a sermon. Do the cracks in the street and a downtown bar share the same color as the endless logging road? For you, the days of the week are philosophers, and Saturday charts the winds with an instrument I've never seen. Words flow in a rhythm I can't chart. Poetry snaps are all that can follow. Is that not the job of a poet, to perceive the not obvious? to jump to conclusions that don't make sense until you read them, to complicate the world in a way that can be universally understood. The next poem is called A Saint for a Saint, and it was inspired by Colette Tennant's patron saints for my students. As I learn about Dominic, the patron saint of astronomers, I think about how beautiful it is that everything has a saint. Absurd, yes, but isn't it comforting that no matter where aching feet take you, there's always someone to pray to who has walked the path before, who cares for you whether you are willing to or not. A patron saint for abandoned children, for abdominal pain, for blood donors and blood banks in Bombay and India, for cats in Calvary, for knife grinders and liturgy and knee trouble, for scholars, both biblical and Roman Catholic. The only thing there doesn't seem to be a saint for is the saint themselves. Who did they pray to when the room swelled with snakes, when the boils broke, when the pyre was lit? What are they supposed to do when they realize history will adorn them, but they will never be around to see it?
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alakai Faber. I've been writing poetry for the last 5 or 6 years. And I was lucky enough to get to be in Colette Tennant's class. And yeah, these are some poems. I was told that I could also make some jokes up here, so I have a few. Hope you all don't mind, but we'll get to the first poem first and we'll come back to that. The first poem is called Mr. In Between. What could I justify about myself? I dirtied my gloves that I took off at night, tried to wash, gave up, and told them that they were red to begin with. I could claim my actions were just a necessary evil, like an owl eating a snake to save the mouse. I just need to remember the sides I stood between. Click. The bolt action pulled back and the casing ejected. So on a brighter note, what do you call a chicken in the Arctic? Some of you have heard this. Lost. Thank you. This next poem is called Blech, with an exclamation point. Coffee. The brutalism of drinks that collectively has been overpriced, overprioritized, and overenjoyed by the masses. Its black and bitter bite sits poorly in my mouth as a headache grows like a gross stain left in the cup. The alternative, however, is even worse, with its oversaturation of milk and sugar. One's likely to gain a sugar rush and claim it's the caffeine. It's become an addiction, itching and scratching at most, taking tight hold of its consumers by the throat every morning, lunch, and second break. Its older cousin, sitting in the corner of the room, eating a croissant and reading a Mad magazine, is no more innocent than the neighbor that got your Wi-Fi password and has been leeching off your data for months. It claims to be healthy, an alternative to its rambunctious cousin, but it's no better than a Tic Tac claiming to have no sugar. It's either boiled leaves, berries, or bologna. The few times it gains flavor, it uses senseless amounts of honey, diabetic cubes, and even worse, a sad excuse for sandwiches to make up for the lost time brewing this bubbling monstrosity. My family has an ongoing bet on whether or not I will end up in a poetry reading corner or a stand-up comedy club. And so half of my family is going to be very disappointed by tonight. My last poem is called The Stage Set Before. There he stood on the stage of the damned, laughing with pride for the moment at hand. A rebel, a crook, a leader of sinners, the crowd, bringing not solemnity but malice to a town. On a scale against a king weighed by the people's hand, they begged he be freed and crucify the Lamb. He left the stage and joined his crew and left his merry way. I scoff and groan at his poor life and wish he'd died instead. But then I read it once again and find this ounce of peace. For while I burn for justice through, I realize that he's me. That stage was lit before my eyes, but all I brought was this: some poor pathetic reasons and a pack of deeds I did. Thank you, everyone.
My name is Charity. I am from Eastern Washington in the Columbia Gorge, and where I live, like, everybody and his brothers works at the dam, one of like 3 dams in the area. And when I graduated high school, I was like, I am so done with this school thing. I am so over it. I'm going to go be an electrician. And I didn't end up being an electrician, but I wrote this poem after an Amanda Newell poem. In retrospect, I could have worked in the dam where Mr. Perry twists wires. He sent me the early application for an internship. I could have spent the last 18 months climbing ladders in concrete intestines to keep copper threads sparking in an enormous cement sieve half the world hates. I could be telling people how I hate or love my damn job. Worn iridescent green vests and hard hats every day. Wondered what the sun was doing. If it waltzed on Columbia's waves, like candles on crystal in a flooded ballroom. I could be making $30 an hour and saying, writing's a hobby. And never understand how running 40 watts of magic through black ink can turn a damn electrician into a wizard, converting the mighty Sturgeon's Highway into cities lit like constellations. My second poem is called To All the Princesses Who Slept on the Pea, who traveled days to be tested and fail, cold bones fighting cold earth, dust and muck worked into you like scrimshaw on the bone knife your father lent you, who watched the sun rise from horseback and felt each jolt jostle between your ribs. They drew you a bath in a marble pool, filled with satin foam and lavender blossoms, towels king-sized and kitten-soft. To all of you left in a quiet boudoir with heavy drapes, cucumber-crisp sheets, and green tea pillows, who fell like heavy chocolate custard, folding into 100 whipped cream comforters sweetened with strawberries, who sank and slept in a nightgown the moon must have made. It is a fine thing to dream. My final poem I wrote in Stinky Bagels, the poetry club at Corban, and out of a giant sheet of prompts, Dr. Tennant and I picked the same one, which was to explore the quote from Milton. He wrote Paradise Lost to justify the ways of God to man. And so she wrote a poem called To Justify the Ways of, was it editing to my students? And I wrote a poem entitled To Justify the Ways of Editors to Poets. Say the poem, like a newborn chicken, still ugly and wet from the bitter battle against a brutal calcium cage, lies heaving in great breaths, its runt chest pumping up and down like a tiny piston. Say the editor has just been to the fair and eaten a block of salty, curling fried potatoes, a milkshake prepared by middle school members of FFA, and a funnel cake coated in melting powdered sugar and drizzled with strawberry syrup. And the editor's son asked to write the graviton, and the editor could not deny him this. Say the editor then sat at his desk and saw the poem, shuffling its wings, only just beginning to dry and fluff like cotton candy, And the poem's amniotic images and the editor's fake fructose collide. He places his hand on his stomach and sends a pre-typed reply.
Okay. Well, a big thank you to Desiree and to Noah, to Allie and Emma and Andrew and Elizabeth and Alakai and Charity. Thank you very much for sharing your poetry with us. Wasn't that terrific? That was great. That was super. We have two lists up here. One is for the mailing list. If you want to be on the mailing list, you sign up on that list. And then one is for the open mic. So if you wanted to read something at the open mic, you can sign up on that list. We'll take a couple minutes break and then come back for the open mic. So we'll see you here in a couple minutes.